Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to week 3 of Advanced Programming with Java here at Portland State University. Um, got a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight. I'm excited about tonight because we will do our first pair programming activity together. I think that'll be cool. As a reminder that the pairing can happen here in the classroom or remotely. So far, we've got 3 people, so we'll have a trio instead of a pair. And we've got lots of people who are remote too. We'll talk way more about all that stuff later. But first, I wanted to start off with some Prime Minister's questions. It's been an interesting week. Your first project was due, well, at the beginning of the class, it was due a couple of minutes ago. And so saw lots of good chatter on Slack, also some good conversations during office hours tonight. But I'm curious about any feedback that you have, any remaining questions that you have about the first project, or maybe project 2, which was assigned last week and is due next week. So I'm going to open up the floor. What can I tell you? Yes, question. Yes, the instructions say edit the pom.xml. There are a couple in your greater project. It's the one for the phone bill project. So for phone bill, and actually I'll just show this to everybody. Yeah. Yes. Yep. And so then the instructions say, hey, go find the pom.xml, and it has a reference to project 1, rename it to project 2. So actually the easiest. So let me show you what's going on here. I gotta get these Zoom windows. And get me out of there. Let's put myself minimal. Okay. So first of all, let's look at the pom.xml for phone bill. If we search for project 1, down here in the jar plugin, we configure the main class, for the jar. So this is the thing that makes it an executable jar. So executable jars have an entry called the manifest. And actually, let's just go take a look at that. Sorry. Here we go. Let's see here. I think I have jar tf target phone. I'm sorry. No, we're here. What's in target? Oh, looks like I don't have a jar file, so I'll run Maven package. I'll create the jar file after running unit tests. There's the jar file. It's got, let's just pipe that to the left so we can see it. It has an entry called metainf dot, sorry, I got Zoom stuff all over my high deploy meeting controls. It's got this metainf dot manifest dot mf file, and if we then say jar xf. So if you're familiar with the tar command, it's the same thing. It will extract an entry from the phone bill.jar, and we'll extract the metainf manifest, and then that puts it here on disk. And it's got all sorts of information in it. This is what the manifest is, some meta information about the jar file. And what's most interesting here is that its main class is project 1. All this other stuff comes from Maven, right? So it's the name of the project, and so then that comes from, let's see here, right here, the name of the Maven project. It also has the version string in there, which is nice. And I've also augmented it to have the GitHub revision and the branch in there. So, and also the build date, which is nice. So I'm pointing this out to you because this is how this entry right here, this main class for project 1 is what makes an executable jar file. If you don't have this in your manifest, it won't know, the java-jar command won't know what main class to invoke. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it for project 2. And so then again, that was here in this main class entry. We could just change it here, or we can navigate to the class and we can say refactor, rename, and we can change that to project 2. And when we do that, it'll ask you, do you want to change the integration and the unit test? Sure, let's do that. Let's change everything. And now also that went and changed our pom.xml. So now that's project 2. So now if we rebuild, well, if we run, let's just do a clean. If we clean and then we run the package phase again. Remember the package phase, package is a prerequisite to verify. It doesn't run all of the integration tests. It just performs all the build phases up through creating the jar file, and so that includes compiling the source code, running the unit tests, and assembling the jar file. So now we have that again. So now if right now we don't have a meta inf because we did a clean. So now if we go and extract the manifest again, we will see that now the main class is project 2. So anyway, long story of telling you that what you need to do is if you use IntelliJ and you rename project 1 to project 2, it'll update the pom.xml for you. Good first question. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Other questions about the course, about what's going on, or feedback, ideas, or comments?
I just posted something in the chat at the beginning of class.
Okay.
So.
Yes. Yeah, about the site.xml. It wants to. Okay, cool. Yeah, I made a note to talk about how to get the Maven site working after we get through other stuff in class. So we're going to save it for the end because, strictly speaking, generating the site is not required for the course. It's kind of a nice little bonus. It's a neat thing, right, that you get to do. And so I will. I would like to cover it tonight, but time permitting. Because yeah, as we saw, there were some things that weren't working, and so I got to work for mine, and so hopefully we can get to work for other people's too. But yeah, it's neat stuff. Yep. No, thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, question is 5:30 p.m. June 8th. You probably mean July 8th. The due date for late submission. Well, you have, let's see, today is the 6th. So you can have up to 2 days throughout the entire term. So if you use both your late days on project 1, then yes, 5:30 p.m. on Friday, June 8th, would be the due date for late submission.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
It is related to project 1. I saw there were like files which name project 1 test and phone call test. So I was like kind of confused which one I should choose for unit testing, or we were supposed to do unit testing on both of them. Because when I was looking into student project, I think there was only one file for the unit test. So how it goes, what approach we should follow for the future projects?
Sure. Yeah, let me commit this code and then rename project 1 to project 2. Yeah, let's take a look. So yes, in the student project, there's only one class. We added the gender enum. There's only one class, and there's only one unit test for that one class and one integration for that test for that one class. In phone bill, however, we've got multiple classes, and therefore you're going to want multiple tests, right? So multiple unit tests. So phone call test has unit tests for the phone call class, and project 2 test has unit tests for project 2, which is just a demonstration that we can read the README. And we also saw last week that text number test is tests the text number functionality. So the reason that the phone bill project has more unit tests is because it has more classes to test. Did that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Nice. Saw a couple questions came in here on the chat. What can we expect in terms of the grading timeline? I'll ask the graders to grade the projects over the weekend, and so you'll probably get your feedback on Sunday night or early Monday morning after I have a chance to take a look at it. Let's see here. Another question. Oh yeah, for project 2, do we need to include the test cases for project 1, and on top of project 1, we have to add new test cases, text number and text parser functionality? Am I correct? The high level question is, well, you need to have all your code covered, and for project 2, you'll probably have a lot of the same logic, especially for command line parsing, because the command line hasn't changed that much. And so, yes, please reuse your tests from project 1 for project 2. I don't know if there's any tests from project 1 that are inappropriate for project 2. As we'll see in project 3, you'll need to change some stuff. But yes, you need to still have at least 75% code coverage. And might as well use all of those, reuse all of those tests from project 1 for project 2. Someone asked if anyone got more than 95% code coverage. Feel free to weigh in. If you did, take credit for it. That's neat. Maybe you tried a little too hard. If someone got 80%, that's pretty good. Certainly sufficient. Oh, it looks like, yep, someone did.
I have a question about project 2.
Yeah.
So I see that we have a text file option, print and readme still. So yes. The readme should still print the readme and exit regardless of what else we give to the command line.
Yep.
And the text file, should the text file still print if we do not include the print option?
Nope, it should not. So if the dash print option is not present, then a description of the new phone call should not be printed.
Okay, that was all I had.
Just like project 1. Yep. Correct. Print does not print the contents of the file. It prints the newly added phone call, just like project 1, right? The behavior of the print option does not change. And don't worry, in project 3, you will be printing the contents of the phone bill. Just be patient. Yep.
Does that mean that when we give print, it shouldn't work if we were reading from the file, only if we were writing?
Well, every time, well, here again, actually, print is completely independent of the text file option, right? Because every time you invoke the command line, you are always adding a new phone call to some to some phone bill. So even if text file isn't there, then the behavior goes back to what it was in project 1, where you just created a new phone bill and added the phone call that was described on the command line to that phone bill. And if you have dash print, then you print the description of the new phone call.
Okay, thanks.
So basically, the project 1 behavior and the project 1 command line is still supported. The only difference is that now dash text file can be provided, and you'll have the text file behavior. Yeah, some folks are bragging about their code coverage. Good for you all. Nice. Okay. Anything else for Prime Minister's questions? Anything else you'd like to know?
One quick question.
Yep.
Like for the dash readme, what if they just, does it have to be like all capitalized when they're doing it on the arguments? Because like the way I was thinking it, I was like, okay, maybe if they put like the dash readme, but then it's like lowercase, then it should also work. Or does it have to be strictly like dash readme and then all
My
capitalized?
intention is that it's all caps. I will not test it with lowercase. So
Okay.
I mean, if you have dash lowercase readme, you can do whatever you want. You can call it an error. You can call it a dash readme. I didn't. I'm not going to test that.
Good.
Oh, good question. Larry here. Question on the cones. Yep, that's absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, interesting. Okay, so yeah, so he's talking about. Let's see here. Was it about Java 7? Remember the name of that one? Java 7 literals enhancements. Yeah. Okay. So it's binary literals. Okay. So you're right. You put 15 in here, and it doesn't work. Okay. So any ideas of why this? I believe that it doesn't work. Any ideas of why it might not work? So wait, did you also say short 15 equals 15, something like that? Oh, and so wait, you put that in there, it doesn't work? Oh, interesting. What does the error message say? Okay. Yeah, an idea of what that might be? Yeah. My guess is that you need to say it's a short 15. That'd be my guess, right? So that and it's all part of the lesson, right? So a literal in Java is an integer, right? Or rather, it's a 32-bit integer. And so then when you just say that, that is saying, oh yeah, it's it's binary literal is a short. The constant literal, the constant 15 is an integer, probably because the high bit is set. When it converts this to an integer, because I think it would upcast and make it wider, then it would extend the 1, and all of a sudden you've got this like big old number. You don't really have 15. It might even be negative. I don't. Well, boy, it is the value, but remember, this is all about the representation of that value, right? And so it's binary arithmetic, and it's tricky. That's why you shouldn't do it. It's like, right. Yeah. Nice, excellent, great question. Good. Oh, another question here. Are these results from the main page that comes up after? Oh, it looks like people are asking about how they get the code coverage. Yeah, I would assume that's all from the index from the Jacoco. Nice. All sorts of good things. Okay. Well then, here's what I thought we'd start out with. I thought I'd do a little bit more TDD for the class to get us remembering how to do TDD, because shortly we're going to be doing some pair programming and a Kata. Well, I'll try to be brief. It's almost 6 now. Let's do go until 6:30 to do some pair programming. To do some TDD. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up. Oh yeah, there we go. Test scenarios for the student project. Great. Oh yeah, where do we leave things for our student? student test. Well, let's see here. We had implemented all sorts of stuff. We were, oh yeah, right. We had done all of the checking for gender, and how are we doing on our integration tests? So let's see here. Here is the big old one. So let's just make sure everything still runs. I'll run the integration tests. Okay, everything still passes. Actually, can I just run this one even though it's disabled? It does. Okay. Oh, it's basically got nothing right now. Okay. So what would be a good test case to implement next? We have done, it appears that we have, yeah, so we went and did error checking for gender. Oh, that's right. We used the enum for all of this. We've got says implemented. We don't have toString implemented. That might be might be a good place to start next. Because what else do we need to do? We need to validate GPA, I suppose. We need to do formatting the classes. Now let's talk about toString. So let's go back to our test. And let's see here. Void toString contains student name, right? Because let's recall what our ultimately what it's supposed to do. Let's go find project 0. It's right way up here. So ultimately, what our student program is supposed to do is when you give it a command line like this, you're supposed to print something like this. So if we give the student a name, its toString method should contain, actually should start with the names. Let's just do that. It's not so much contains student name, should start with student name. Okay, so let's create a student. Create student named. Oh, I've got one already. Let's call it name. And we'll just, oops. Yeah. And we'll say assert that student.toString. I think there's a starts with. Yes. Starts with name. So now we'll run this. Yep, toString is not implemented yet. That is true. So let's implement it. So we'll say return, let's see here, this dot name. Actually, I think we've got this dot get name. Yeah. I think that'll make it pass. Nice. Okay. And then let's do GPA next, right? Because if we look at it, it says Dave has a GPA of 3.64. So let's see here. I don't know why I made a copy of that. There's no real reason to. So toString contains GPA. And then we'll make a student, and we'll create a student from, oh, right, it has a bunch of arguments. That's neat. So name, the gender will be male, and then we'll have the GPA. I guess here we can have GPA as a string, 3.64. We'll just put this into a GPA variable because we're going to use it in our assert statement. Oops. Yeah, there's probably some exception that gets thrown here. That's neat. And then assert that student.toString contains string GPA. Nice, we're on that. I think I saw a question come in. Oh, someone's just saying yes. Thanks for getting back to that person. Okay, expected string that contains 3.64. It just had the name. That's cool. Okay, so this is just basic, red-green refactor, right? Actually, it's more than that. I suppose I should have it say has a GPA of 3.64 is really what I want to test here. Let's go back to here and just have contains string has a GPA of GPA. Okay, let's implement this thing then. Has a GPA of. Do I have anything for GPA yet? I do not. Okay, time to add some stuff. Time to implement some things. So I'll have a GPA. Create a field here. It is not a string. It is a double, and it's gray, meaning that it is never assigned. And so, I will just put it here. This GPA equals the GPA parameter. Nice. These are highlighted in yellow because, they may be final. That's cool. These may be final because these fields are only assigned in the constructor. And actually, this is a really good pattern to follow. So in a couple of weeks, we'll learn about something called dependency injection, which basically says, hey, listen, if I have one object that relies on another object, I should take that dependent object and inject it into the constructor and put it in an immutable field, that a final field there. And that way, just your code is better known. And it also allows you to test your code more easily because instead of creating a dependent object, or relying on a setter to depend the object, it's like you can't create one object without the other, and so you provide the dependent object when you create the dependent object, in this case, a student. Cool. Okay, so let's run it, see how we're doing. Oh, let's see here. Expected a string containing GPA of 3.64, but name has a GPA of 1.23. Well, that's interesting. Okay. I wonder where that came from. Okay, so let's look at the create student method. And sure enough, son of a gun, we're hard coding in the GPA. Okay then, that is cool. Yeah, question. Yeah, string ... Does anybody remember what this is? 3 dots. It's called variable length arguments, var args, right? So meaning that it's basically syntactic sugar for an array, but what it allows you to do is, do what we do right here, right? You see how we're just passing in an arbitrary number of strings, right? It just makes it easier to do it. So I guess let's see here. I guess they all have 3 arguments because I guess they're all required now. But for instance, we'll be able to pass in a variable number of classes that a student takes. Yep. Yep. So using string arrays, yeah. Yeah. So it means when should you use an array of strings? When should you use variable length arguments? Really. Yeah. This just I think this is easier to use. Here we can do it. It behaves more like the command line, which has variable length, variable number of arguments. Yep. Yeah. No. Good question. Question: do we need to modify the text parser and text dumper class for project 2? Absolutely, because what I gave you was just a start. You may notice that things like, I don't know, the phone calls and the phone bill aren't persisted, so you'll need to include that. Good question.
A question.
Sorry, someone come off mute.
Hi. Yeah, I was wondering where you have the to string contains GPA, where it throws the two the two there, unrecognized gender exception and missing command line arguments.
Oh yeah,
Those are just
so yep.
ones, right?
Yeah, why do I need those? Well, I need to throw those here. I mean, if I get rid of them, and it's saying we're kind of fast here. So if I get rid of them, it doesn't compile. I get a red underline here because it's saying, oh, create student from throws those exceptions. And because I'm calling create student from a method, it also needs to, throw those exceptions. Because those are what are called checked exceptions. There are also things called unchecked exceptions, and actually maybe we could change that. As a matter of fact, I think I do want to change that. So when we did this last time, we had this extend an exception, and if you look at the is it in the core API lecture or is it in the language lecture? I can't remember now. There are things called checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. A checked exception is something like, well, capital E exception, IO exception you'll work with in project 2. I think your parser exception that you'll work with in project 2 is also the same. Those are exceptions that need to be, if a method throws those, the caller of that method must either explicitly handle it or declare that it throws that exception. You can also have something called a runtime exception, which is an unchecked exception, meaning that the caller of the code doesn't need to. Sorry, that was unrecognized gender. It doesn't need to declare that it throws it anymore. And this is kind of nice. It just makes the code. Well, actually, it's nice in that you don't need to declare that you throw it. It's not so nice in that it's not as explicit. When it was a checked exception, you knew that it might be thrown. It was very much in your face. Actually, now that I make this change, I think I like the regular exception better. I think I want these exceptions to be in my face because it tells me that I have to that I need to handle that exception. So I'm going to undo this one. I'm going to have some errors all over the place because oops. How interesting. There we go. Now it's telling me all the places where I need to add it. Yep, and so that's why you need to declare that you throw that this test method then throws these exceptions, is because you call create student from, and it declares that it throws those exceptions. You're basically cascading this up the API chain call. Nice, great questions, everybody. Okay, so we were on this test, and it was failing, right? Because the GPA is always 1.23, and that's because we very explicitly did that because we didn't. We didn't do anything with GPA yet, and we need to. So, well, let's do the GPA now. Let's see here. Let's test that. Let's write a test for putting in the GPA on the command line and doing something with it. So here it's required because we have it here, but we don't have a test that makes sure that the GPA is set on the student. So can create student with expected GPA. Oops. So student equals create student from name, whatever, other, and then our GPA will be 3.45. We'll put that into a variable because we're going to use it in the validation later. Throw all those exceptions, and we're going to assert that. Well, actually, we're going to assert that student.getGPA. Oops, we needed to get GPA equal to. This is going to be a double, so it's going to be 3.45. So actually, technically, we don't need this variable because we never use it. So let's inline it. Okay. Okay. Now we need to get GPA method. It's not going to be a string. It's going to be return GPA, and then we are going to make that return double. Okay. So now let's run this thing and see what we got. Yep, expected 3.45, but was 1.23. That is true. Okay, well, so now we are going to, let's see here. So now we want our GPA, that'll be the second ARGS in the create student from. So, well, let's see here. This is the ARGs are all strings. We want this to be a double GPA. So okay, now we need to convert right, because we can't just say args1. Okay, sorry, we can't just say args2. We need to convert that into a double. So does anybody remember how to convert a string into a double?
Could you do like double dot parse double?
Yes. Oh yeah, but other suggestions? Can you cast? Oops. Can you cast? Let's try it. Nope, doesn't like casting. Someone said float.decode of string. That's an interesting one. Float.decode. Oh, there is no decode method. Yes, I believe the correct answer is double dot parse double, and that'll be args 2. Nice. Okay, let's run that again. Hey, and it passed. Super sweet. Okay, now that one passed. Now, does the string contains GPA? Does this pass also? It did. Awesome. Okay, good deal. We are making some progress here. So let's just run all of our tests to make sure we haven't broken anything. By the way, I'm not really taking much of an opportunity to refactor because we didn't write a lot of code yet. So I'm just sort of tacitly, doing the blue side of the hat. But if anybody sees some opportunities for refactoring, please speak up. I'm gonna run integration tests just to make sure again I haven't broken anything. Oh, okay. Commentary on the Vim plugin and dark mode. Glad that's working for you. Okay. Great. Okay, we got some stuff working. So let's commit our code. And we'll say, what did we write? We oh yeah, add support for GPA. Yep, store the GPA. Store the GPA in the student object. Well, let's see here. We could go through and oops, where's the student test? We could go through and write a bunch of code for validating that the GPA is a valid double. But honestly, that code is going to look exactly like what we did for validate gender. Basically, check to make sure that it's valid, and if not, throw an unorganized gender, invalid GPA exception. Does anybody want to see that? Is that a valid exercise to go through? Would you learn something if I went through and I implemented error handling when the GPA is not a valid double? I got a sure. I got a. Mm-hmm. Great question. So I'll repeat that question, and I'll get to that also. So the question is, hey, listen, when when he implemented all this error checking, he didn't create specific new kinds of exceptions. He just said invalid argument exception. Good or bad? And what were you going to say? Great. Okay. Yeah, and a related question, hey, for all of this error checking, when should I just use an if block, and when do I need to throw an exception and catch exception and handle it, right? Okay. All good questions. Okay, I'll try to give a good answer. So, my thinking on this has kind of evolved over the years. So with regards to the first question about is it preferable to use just a generic or a more general exception like invalid command line argument versus something more specific like in the case of your project one, malformed phone bill exception, or sorry, malformed phone number exception, or invalid date exception. These days, I prefer the specificity of these custom exceptions. Now, for me, I've gotten really good at just like creating things. I mean, you see me use IntelliJ really fast. I acknowledge that for someone who is newer to all of this, the act of writing a new class, there's cognitive load there, and the fact that like, listen, ultimately all I need is an error message that's printed out when something goes wrong. You can get the job done. And no one's gonna lose any credit or whatever. And so then, and I think it's very common just to sort of say, oh yeah, right, invalid argument exception, and then the message will contain the thing that needs to be printed out. However, and so I mean that is fine and sufficient. These days, though, I'm finding that it's much more effective for me. I like having the strongly typed nature of the error of the error to handle. For me, this just seems like super crystal clear in terms of, hey, what can go wrong when I pass in some generic string or some string that doesn't conform to what I need it to. And the thing I also like about these custom exceptions is that it allows me to do things like have a get unrecognized gender method. So I know exactly like what went wrong. And as a matter of fact, here, I guess I have a get message that says unrecognized gender. But another thing about having a custom exception is that, hey, let's say in your application, you don't need to do this for your projects. Let's say in your application, you want to have localized messages, meaning that you want to have different error messages depending on the spoken or written language of the user. Okay, I'm running in a Chinese locale, and my error messages are going to be completely different. Well, the code is going to express the concepts in most likely the native language, or English, or whatever the native language of the developer is. Error messages and interaction with the user ought to be in the native language of the user. And so, again, for your projects, yep, it's fine to like hard code the error message in one place and then just convey it, in a generic exception back to the caller. But as your code gets more complex and as your users get more complex, you need to think about how much English text it sort of escapes your code. Also, we'll see that next week we'll start talking about Project 4. Project 4 is a completely different can of beans. It's a web application. You've got, and there are things about it that are fundamentally different about than Projects 1, 2, and 3. You've got two processes that are talking to each other. There is data that is serialized between a client and a server. And also, you don't have access to, or rather, the interaction with the user isn't through system error and system out anymore, right? If you're a web server and you print a system out, it goes on some log file someplace. It doesn't go back to the user, and so then it helps to have these abstractions like these custom exceptions to then allow the web server code to like perform some operations like, oh, unrecognized gender exception. I know exactly what it is. It can then create a custom 503 or invalid argument, whatever that is, 400 error, whatever, to send back to the customer. So for project 1, yeah, if you just use a generic exception, fine. And in other projects, yeah, you'll probably be able to do okay. When you're doing this professionally, or when you're doing it at a larger scale, maybe you've got a big capstone project or something like that, consider the pros and cons of strongly typed exceptions. Good question. Nice. Well, let's see here. What's next? I look at my integration test when it's disabled. The sort of end all be all. How close have we gotten now? Oh, it doesn't even do this yet. Well, we should have it. It doesn't even print the string yet, the toString yet, and it should. So let's look at the main method here. Oops, the main method of student, which is here someplace. There we go. Oh, create student from args. Okay. Oh, okay then. Well then. So what this does is it creates the student from the arguments. Oops. Always doing that. And then it's going to call student.toString. It's going to print that out to standard error. System.out.println student. I can say student.toString, but I think IntelliJ is going to tell me that's redundant. Yeah, it's redundant because just by sending toString to println, it knows that it calls the toString method, so you can just say that. Okay, so now if I do that, okay, actually I should have written an integration test for that that says that like the name of the student is printed to standard out, and I should do that. Should set a good example. You know, it's for the children. So here, yep, I should say void student name is printed to standard out. And when I print this, oops, the name here, variable is going to be the name. I'll say that contains string name. Contains string name. So I invoke my main method. I'm sending it the name bogus 3.64, and I expect that the name is printed to standard output, not to standard error. And I see that it's not because nothing's being printed to standard output, and that is true because here I am not. I am not printing the student standard error. So system.out.println student. Let's run this again. Oops. Ooh, that's interesting. Oops, what did I do wrong? That's not what I wanted.
I think you need to change bogus to a real gender.
Oh, maybe. Well, yeah, you think it
46.
should. You're right. So, like, why didn't that fail? Yeah, something. Oh no, you are absolutely right. Because yes, because I didn't assert that result dot get text written to standard error is empty. Good call. Oops, is empty string. Empty string. Yeah. Thank you to whoever that was. Is that Alana? Who was that?
It was Nicole.
Nicole, thank you. 5 points to Gryffindor. Yes. Excellent. So we'll just put other here and yay, now it passes. Okay. Good deal. Okay. Well, wasn't that an interesting thing where it was like I thought the test was right. It was only because I was not asserting enough things. Cool. Super sweet. So now that we've got that, let's run this one again just to sort of see what's next. We only got a couple more minutes of this. So, okay, so what have we got? Boy, I think it'll be easier if I click to see the difference. So it says expected Dave has a GPA of blah and is taking 3 classes. So this class is too much work. And all I got was Dave has a GPA of 3.64. Okay. Well, let's see here. And we should do the and is taking 3 classes. Okay. Well, now let's do the classes. So let's see here. Let's go back to our student test. I know let's commit these changes, get them off the plate here, and so then print students to string and to standard out. Standard out. Okay, push that. Get rid of that. Okay. Now let's go back to our test. And well, let's see here. We'll have next one is void toString contains number of classes. So we will well, let's say contains 0 classes. 0 classes. We'll create a student. We don't care about the GPA here. 1.45, 0 classes, and we'll assert that this is what and is taking 0 classes. Yep, it just has name has a GPA of 3.45. Okay, so then let's go add this to toString. And is taking. So now we're going to need this dot classes dot size classes period. Okay, and so then let's go create this field. We want it to be a what, like a list of string. Those are going to the classes. It probably doesn't know what a list is. Import that class from Java util classes, and then we'll assign it here. This dot classes equals classes. This is going to complain because it's not final. Okay, so we got this. I think this will be enough. Yep, that worked. Okay. Now let's do one class. Let's duplicate that, add a space. toString contains one class. And so taking a Java course and is taking one class Java. I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to say. Okay, so wait, what? No, sorry, this one again. I reran the last one. Should be one class. There we go. Yep, still says it's taking 0 classes. Okay, well that doesn't surprise me because we need to populate this array list here somehow. So this will be yep. Back here, let's say this is going to be lost keyboard focus. This is going to be classes. And let's see here. Classes is going to contain what? Like all of the arguments, like 3 through the end of the array. So for for string class, because we can't use class. Oh, no, actually, we don't really want that. For int I equals 0, 1, 2, 3, while I is less than args.length, I plus plus. classes dot add args I. What is IntelliJ telling me? Manual array collection to copy. Okay, what can you do for me? Replace with collections dot add all. Sweet. Oh, what doesn't it like here? What's add all? Add all can be replaced with parameterized constructor call. Big money, no whammies. Wow, look, that's maybe easier to read. IntelliJ thinks so. Okay, thanks IntelliJ. So I did a little refactoring before I got to green. That's okay. Okay, so let's let's put that in. And so what now? Where are we at with the class with the test? Okay, we're getting closer. It said expected string containing is taking one class Java, and instead is saying is taking one class is. Because that is true because we don't have the we don't print the name of the class and all that. That is cool. We'll go to the toString method. Okay, has a GPA of this and is taking that many class says. Okay, so now things are getting a little more confusing. So I got to add some logic here, right? I got to have it say one class when there's one class. I've got to say 0 classes every place else. Okay, so let's see here. I am going to put this into its own method because it's going to get a little complex here. So I'm going to say hello. Yes, I want to extract a method. Did I not do that correctly? Oh, no, wait. Hello. IntelliJ. Refactor, extract, introduce method. Did I use the wrong keyboard shortcut? Oh, that's funny. What's going wrong there? The whole thing here? Yeah. Oh, interesting. I wonder if my IntelliJ is just unhappy. You know why? Because it's 6:30 and it's time for a break. Well then, it's 6:30 and time for a break. I'm going to restart my IntelliJ while you all take a break. Let's come back in 10, and then we'll move on to the pair programming. I want to make sure you have enough time for that. Hey, so just to close the loop on the IntelliJ stuff, so I restarted my IntelliJ, I updated my IntelliJ, and yet still I can't highlight this expression here and extract a method from it. So that's kind of weird that it doesn't work. It doesn't give me any feedback. But I did notice that I can extract a method from just this, and so I can say get classes description. And then put this down here, which is kind of a weird thing. I don't know if it's a bug in IntelliJ. I don't know if I was doing something wrong. Oh, because this should be a string. I wonder if that's why if it couldn't. There's something about it I couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure out the return type of it because you're appending because I was appending. Oh yeah, I had a plus operator between something that returns an int and classes, and maybe it was getting confused and didn't know that returns a string. Don't know. Anyway. So that's working. But that's not what I want to talk about. Let's move on from test-driven development. Hopefully you got to see some more of that and sort of remember that red-green refactor, how to take your test cases that you brainstormed here and turn them into unit tests that are ultimately inform how your code will be implemented. Now let's talk about pair programming. So yeah, let's just do the handout first. Which is not very well centered on the page, apparently. So I got a whole handout here, a whole screed about pair programming. Certainly when I was in school, and there was this, there was this thought that the programmer, this was like, the lone wolf cub out there, in the cave, working on their own, toiling into the night to put together amazingly complex solutions to difficult problems. And it turned out that it resulted in a lot of problems. Let's start off by talking about the problems for the individual. While it's good to be alone sometimes, it's not ultimately effective for the individual, and certainly not effective for the people around them. You've probably heard me say software development, it's a team sport. It's something that requires multiple people with multiple points of view, with multiple skills and competencies to produce a solution to a problem. That's what we do as software engineers, right? We solve problems. We solve problems for the people that consume our software. And it's more than just putting the typing the code into the into your IDE and making sure that it works. It's really about solving problems and understanding, exploring all the different aspects of it. And when it's just one person, you end up with solutions that just are informed by one person's worldview, and those are those usually optimized in the in the wrong ways. So well, people found that over time that you ended up with better solutions that were often developed faster and with better quality when you have multiple people contributing to the problem. And so then pair programming will learn more, and then it's a scaled up version mob programming that we'll learn about in a couple of weeks. These are programming movements, a style of software development in which more than one person works simultaneously on a code base. And what pair and mob programming give you is rapid feedback on the work. Much like I've been doing in front of you. Actually, it's better than what I've been doing in front of you. I'm up here like performing, right? And you're sitting there, you're asking questions, and you're cheering, and you're booing. Right? That's not exactly what pair and mob programming is about. Instead, it's a collaborative activity. So far, this has been one way. This is basically the equivalent of me lecturing to you because you're seeing me code. Well, now you're going to code with each other. And but what this gives us is really short feedback loops, and it allows us to leverage the knowledge of multiple people, right? Maybe there's a particular API that one person knows better than the other. Maybe there is an algorithm that or a particular way of structuring or modeling the data that one of the pairs has that allows both people to take advantage of all the knowledge that's there on the keyboard. So pair group programming is something we're going to get to experience tonight and again next week. Now, just to be clear, once again, the code that you write for the projects, that is individual code. I need to assess your own work because each person gets their own grade, and so then that must be your own work. But another aspect of this course is that you get to experience both pair and mob programming during in-class activities. We'll do the first one tonight. And what you do is you contribute to the implementation of what are called code katas, these simple little programming projects that I found on the web that are good for exploring new language or new development techniques like test-driven development. To collaborate, especially since so many of us are remote and distributed, I'd like you to collaborate in a public GitHub repository. So just to be clear, the code that you write in class, that's in a public repository. You can share that with anybody. I don't care. But for your projects, again, not only should it be individual work, it should also be in a private GitHub repository so that no one else can see it. I encourage you to make the partners in pair programming, especially if you're remote. You have to do it if you're remote. Collaborators on the repository so that you can all commit changes to it. One practice in mob and pair programming is to have the person who is driving, the person who is on the key, whose fingers are on the keyboard, have them write some code, git pass, and then commit it, and then have the next person, the next driver, do a git pull from GitHub to get those latest changes and then work from there. I encourage a question. Yes, Visual Studio's live share is super useful. Yeah, we'll see an equivalent feature in IntelliJ called Code with Me very shortly. So I remember on the first day when we went through all of the instructions for setting up the Getting Started repository, well, you can leverage those same instructions again, doing that special clone of a Git repository to create a new GitHub repository with call it whatever you want, Portland State Java Getting Started Katas or Portland State Java Katas or whatever, for collaborating in these pair programming exercises. And of course, only one person in your pair needs to do that. And inside the repository, the Getting Started part repository, which doc was the guide for doing the mirror? It's here in the handout, but I'll just post it again real quick. It's just here. It's in your README, so you've got one, but the instructions are definitely there. At the top level of your repository and the new one you create, there is a script called Create Kata's project, Create Kata project, that you'll use for creating the Kata, and we'll see how to do that shortly once we introduce the Kata. And actually, let me turn it over to the video now because but before I go too much into the details of what we're doing tonight, let's learn some more about pair programming. So I have this pretty cheesy video that explains pair programming from a sort of a student's point of view. And like I said, it's cheesy, but I think it gets the message across really quite well. It does have audio, so I'm going to start it and let me know if you cannot hear the audio. It takes about 5 seconds for the audio to start. I hear some typing shortly, or maybe not. Okay.
Hello and welcome to Fun with Pair Programming.
People on the Zoom, were you able to hear the "Welcome to Fun with Pair Programming"? Yes, you were. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go.
An introduction to pair programming for students. If you're a student who is new to pair programming, you've come to the right place. This video will help provide valuable information to make you the best pair programmer you can possibly be in your classes and beyond. Pair programming refers to the practice whereby two programmers work side by side on one computer, collaborating on the same design, algorithm, code, or test. The pair is made up of a driver who actively types at the computer or records a design, and a navigator who watches the work of the driver and identifies problems, asks clarifying questions, and makes suggestions. Switch roles from time to time to share the work evenly and get the most out of your pair programming experience. You'll hear effective pairs constantly chatting as they jointly decide how to tackle the task at hand.
Well, actually, I don't even know where it's saving this stuff. So we create a new patient and that's record. Oh,
right.
Probably in save data file. So it's going through, looks like a list of records.
So we probably, since we just added the height and weight, I don't know if that's actually getting written.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay.
So
why do so many thousands of students around the world prefer pair programming? Why don't we ask some to compare old-fashioned solo programming to this new and innovative system?
wait, what was the word?
You would program by yourself, so you'd usually be just by yourself in a computer, maybe in a cube or at a single desk, and it's a very lonely type thing. It can be.
Well, it could be really frustrating. You'd sit there banging your head against a desk and trying to find, the missing bracket, or couldn't figure out why the logic in your program didn't quite work right. And with two people there, it's a lot easier to work those problems out a lot more quickly, so you're not frustrated all the time.
This is nothing new either. Most science labs take advantage of lab partners and small groups. Computer science is no different. You can learn a lot from working with other people. Students find it helps them get better scores on programming projects. Pair programming helps them learn, so they get better grades on exams as well. Mostly, students report that they enjoy getting to know the people in their classes better. This makes it much easier to interact when problems do arise, because you've got a class full of friends instead of strangers. Last, but certainly not least, students are much more likely to figure out solutions if they've got someone to brainstorm with, and this can lead to faster completion times and a better understanding of the subject matter. Students often find the whole experience much more enjoyable and less frustrating. Pair programming will also help you prepare for your career in computer science. In the professional world, people collaborate and pair program all the time, and as an expert, you'll already be ahead of the game. Have you ever spent most of your class time with your hand in the air, getting nowhere on a project while you wait for help from your professor or lab instructor? With pair programming, those days are history, and you'll find yourself having a lot more fun. Who knows? Maybe you'll even look forward to the alarm going off in the morning so you can get to class. Now that you know the basics, let's look at some simple do's and don'ts of pair programming. First, be sure to talk. Not a minute should go by when you're not communicating somehow. Don't say anything that might insult your partner. Even if you're only joking, he or she might take it personally. Don't forget to listen too. Both the driver and the navigator should be fully engaged in the project. So much so that the driver can pass the keyboard to the navigator at any time, and he or she will be ready for the switch with no questions asked.
Periodically switch positions so you can gain experience in both roles.
Switching helps prevent errors and stimulates conversation too. Be patient. Be prepared to explain yourself to your partner, and don't get frustrated if they don't understand it first. By explaining your work to your partner, you'll be helping yourself learn as well. Remember the ancient Chinese proverb, "To teach is to learn." And be sure to give the driver a little time to correct his or her own mistakes. After all, no one likes a backseat driver. Respect your partner. The golden rule is key here. Just remember to treat your partner with the same level of respect that you expect from him or her. It doesn't matter if they are from another culture, an introvert, an extrovert, a procrastinator, or the valedictorian. We are all here to accomplish one thing, and everyone has something to offer. Take breaks. You can get more done in 1 hour pair programming than in several hours by yourself. But this can take a toll on your brain. Don't forget to take a break every so often to keep yourself fresh and energetic. When you return, you'll likely see something you overlooked before. Be prepared. Be sure to do any preliminary work ahead of time, and don't be late for appointments with your partner. Their time is valuable, as is yours. Hygiene. Think about it. How would you feel if the person you were going to spend a couple of hours with smelled terrible? Take a shower, brush your teeth, bring some mints. You know the drill. Have fun! Working with someone else can be a lot more fun than working by yourself. You can share a laugh, relieve some tension, and have someone to celebrate with when you get that last test case to pass. Believe me, that's a great feeling. Now that we've gone through all the things you should do as a pair programmer, let's go through some of the things you should avoid when working with your partner. Don't be a keyboard hog, or think that just because your partner is a novice and you're more experienced, that they won't bring something to the table. Don't constantly tell other people what to do either. You don't want to be the only person in the class that no one wants to work with because you're too bossy. There is another side to that coin, so don't be intimidated. Some people are afraid that they don't know enough, but chances are your partner feels the same way, and you both know way more than you give yourself credit for. Trust me, it will all be fine. The primary goal of pairing is to work together towards the best possible solution, so don't be afraid to speak up if you disagree with your partner from time to time. Your partner may as well be working alone if you're not willing to speak up. If you're unhappy with your pair programming situation for any reason, don't hesitate to talk to your professor or teaching aide. That's their job, and they will be happy to help you resolve whatever problem you may have. As you can see, there are many benefits to pair programming, but there are also a few speed bumps. Sometimes you'll find it difficult to find time in your schedules to meet, for example. But students all over the world agree that the benefits outweigh any drawbacks that they can find.
If there's two of you working on it, typically you're spending a lot less time working on it, so this is great for homework. Then also I would say that in general, your solution is going to be better.
So if you're working with somebody and their grade or their deadline matters to you, you're more likely to get your work done at an earlier time. Also with pair programming, you can typically have higher grades on assignments. There's higher quality code as well.
This concludes our journey through the exciting world of pair programming, but there's still much to learn. Take these tips with you into your next pair programming lab and join the growing number of pair programmers across the country, the world, and beyond.
So cheesy. You don't need a whole nother like 40 seconds of all these. It's so funny because this is not really from the 80s. It was posted in 2008, which yeah. And I swear I went to college with that guy. It's like I think it's like anyway. But so beyond that, what are some of the takeaways that you had from watching that video? What were some things that you noticed? Oh, that looks like we're done. Two brains are better than one. Nice. I like that. How do you think that might manifest itself? So, like, imagine if you're pair programming. How does the two brains better than one sort of? What does that look like? Yeah. Help you get unstuck. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Why don't you do it like that? I'm like,
yeah, right. Just asking for their point of view, and maybe somebody's initial reaction will trigger the thing inside you that will, help you get it. Great, cool. Some of the folks on Zoom, what were your key takeaways, your observations from the video?
One observation that I got is that you're not here to judge each other's code. You're here to help each other's code, because I'm pretty sure like half of us are new to Java in general. And then even before this, I was like, what if my partner is like really good at this and me as a person that might not have much experience? It's kind of intimidating, but you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Yeah.
Yep. It's a collaborative activity, and it's your partner, and so just like any partner's game, tennis or bridge or or whatever, it helps to play off each other. If two partners are competing, you're much more likely to lose. See, here's some other. Let's see here. Some other observations in chat. Yep. Don't assume superiority and inferiority to your partner. Yeah. Growth mindset. Yeah. Exactly. Right. This is meant to be a generative activity where everybody gets something out of it. Let's see here. Something else. One person helps to fill in knowledge gaps of the other, and vice versa. Yep. Definitely. Oh yeah, and saves a lot of time with pair programming while working coordination. Yes. Although it's counterintuitive for a lot of people, especially experienced programmers who have just gotten so used to just doing everything on their own, and they get their way all the time, and it must be perfect because I'm perfect, right? And then, but you look at other people's code, and it's like, what were they thinking? It's like, what is, right? And this is why there are these really intangible benefits of code that's developed by multiple people. To say nothing of sort of the resiliency of the team. One person goes on vacation, you're never worried about losing losing all of the knowledge about a particular area because it's been developed by multiple people. Great, good observations. Okay, so that's pair programming. Actually, one thing that I wanted to speak just a little bit to that they highlighted in the video, but didn't really go into detail, is the two roles in pair programming. And this is something that I want you to keep in mind while you're doing it. So at any given time, there is a driver and there is a navigator. And the driver is the person whose hands are on the keyboard, who's typing. And just sort of cognitively speaking, it's hard, as we all know, to type and to think and to sort of like make decisions. And the thinking and making decisions is the responsibility of the navigator. So the navigator is telling the driver what to type right now, but is also thinking about what to type now. What will be done next. So, for instance, the navigator will be thinking about, well, first we'll say, okay, let's have a unit test that tests this thing. And then we'll, the person typing, will implement that. And then the navigator, while the driver is typing, the navigator can then be thinking about, like, what might the implementation look like? Because remember, this is part of the pairing, is that you take on different roles. And then after a while, like a couple of minutes, you switch. And okay, great. Someone else's hands are on the keyboard, and of course we're doing this virtually, so it's metaphorically speaking. Hands are on the keyboard, but someone else is typing, and the other person is sort of making the decisions, is thinking about what comes next. And when you get this dynamic down, you can go really fast. And it's not nearly as taxing as having one person doing all the typing and the other person doing all the thinking, or one person doing all the typing and the other person just sitting there listening, right? That's boring. So actively try to take on the driver and the navigator role. Okay, let's talk about what we'll be pair programming on tonight. We'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so code katas. You can read about them here, but the whole idea is that a code kata is a little programming exercise which is meant to be a teaching exercise. It's like the cones, but kind of bigger in scale, right? Where a cone is like a little test, and this is like a whole programming thing, and probably if I just show you it's the easiest thing here. So here's something from a site that I like to use called Coding Dojo. This is super simple, right? Because remember, the idea tonight isn't to solve the problem. This is like a 4-line program probably, right? Super easy. The idea here is to work as a pair to do it. What you're experiencing tonight is the pair programming. Next week, the kata will be more interesting and more evolved. But tonight, it's all about just understanding what it's like to work in a pair. So here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to write a function that's called compute. It takes a string and returns a string. And it's got the following rules. If the number passed in is divisible by 3, write foo instead of the number. And it goes through, And if the number is divisible by 5, add bar. And if the number is divisible by 7, add quicks. And so therefore, and then you got like just digits themselves. 3, 5, 7, add foo, bar, and quicks. So here are some examples. 1 and 1 is no transformation, but 3 you get foo because A is divisible by 3 and it is the digit 3. But similar 9 is divisible by 3 but isn't the digit 3, so you just get foo. And so anyway, here are some examples, and these will be your tests. So I encourage you also to experiment not only with pair programming but with test-driven development, and to write some unit tests that write all these as unit tests and get them to pass by implementing the rules. The katas usually evolve. There's usually a phase 2, and so now this one replace each 0 with a character with asterisks, and so here are some examples there. So you see things change a little bit. So this is a very simple problem that we're going to be pairing on tonight, just to give you some experience working with one other person on writing code. So how are we going to do this? Well, we'll break up into pairs in a little while. I got some more stuff that I want to show you. First of all, we're going to need to create a new clone of the repository, and just as recall how to do that, we'll use the you do this git clone -- bear, and then you do this little dance where you go and you cd into the .git directory, and then I guess you also need to first you need to create the you need to create your own repository for pairing tonight, and then you do this push -- mirror off to that repository. And only one of the partners needs to do that, but this is a good first thing to sort of pair up on. Have someone create this if you haven't already. And then what you'll have is a fresh new repository. Remember, this is a public repository. Fresh new repository in which you can run the create Kata script. So let's see here. You run create Kata, and it takes 2 arguments, the name of a project and a one-word team name. So create Kata, we'll call this one, what's the name of it? Foobar Quicks. Yep, Foobar Quicks. And let's say I was then team names. Let's say I was partnering with someone named Dave, so it's gonna be Dave and Dave. And this will go and create a project that looks a lot like the, and I'm just doing this in my summer 2022 repository. You'll create your own repository, of course. This will create a new project that looks a lot like, oh, that's a good point, Kyle. Let's see here. Oops. Let's open up things. And so now you've got a new, well, you probably need to refresh the Maven. We'll have, sorry, where is it? Oh, student. There it is. Foobar Quicks. Oh, there it is. It's thinking about it and thinking, cool, now you've got it. I was complaining about some stuff. And now you've got a project that has a main method called Kata. You've got a Kata test. And so you can add unit tests here, and you can then implement your code in the Kata. And of course, you can rename these things to whatever you want. So if you want to have a class called Foobar Quicks, go ahead and rename it. Couple good posts here in the chat. Kyle points out that you're right. You don't need to do the same trick about creating a bare repository. You just fork my repository. So yeah, if you want to do that, you can do that too, and that will be a public repository. Yeah, so maybe making a fork would be an easier thing to do. Good call, Kyle. Okay, and so then what you're going to do tonight is you'll get yourself a repository. You'll create a Kata project in that repository. And then you'll do the Kata using pair programming. So, oops, some more things to say about that. There's someone mentioned, someone way up here mentioned that, oh yeah, it was Alana who mentioned that Visual Studio has a feature called Code Live, or live share, that lets you collaborate with people. JetBrains has something very similar called Code with Me. It's still a relatively new feature, and actually it may limit the length of the collaboration session if you don't have an academic license, but it's something that I recommend that you try. You can collaborate with people. So here I am going to start a, let's see here, I'm going to start a Code with Me session. And I am going to let people edit files on my machine, and I trust you all for the time being anyway. I don't need to automatically start a voice call. I'm going to enable access there, and it will go off and contact the Join With Me server. And so then now, Code With Me. So yeah, so now when you join that URL, you'll be able to collaborate with me on the Kata. And so then this is something that you can use. So for instance, if I was going to get started here on the, on things, I'm gonna rename some stuff first. I'm gonna rename Kata to, what was the name of this thing? Oh, no one's joined yet. Can someone click on that link? Does it work? I just want to make sure it works. Do I need to invite people or something? Nope. Oh, here we go. Natha, yes, come join us. And so what you'll see, Foobar Quicks, oops. Is that you'll be able to edit my code along with me. You'll be able to see my cursor, and I'll be able to see yours. Oh, oh, as an agent. Sorry, I thought you were. Nice. Okay. And yeah. And so there. Yep. There he is, and he's looking at my code right there. Yep. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. There's Camilo. And it gives you like a little, code and stuff. But I know you all great, and you're all looking at my code there. I think you can also navigate to other things, and so here I'll just start adding a test. I'll add a test, and maybe someone can implement it here. So sorry, let me go do this. I'll just implement this first one. So let's see here. It takes compute string. Accept. Compute 1 as 1. Well, so I've got some people following along here. And so let's see here. I'll just assert that. I'll just put this up in. I'll put this in a field here. I will initialize in a setup method. I will call it a foobar quicks, and I'll say this foobar quicks compute of 1 equal to look all these people equal to 1. So what was that? Oh yeah. And so like before each annotation, we'll run a method before every test runs. Yeah. I talk more about that in the JUnit lecture. Call it string. And import that. Nice. Okay. So then, I just wrote this test here. Let's see here. Compute 1 as 1. Oh, did someone run the test, or did I run the test? I did. Okay. Cool. Can someone else run the test? I can't remember. Someone who is remote. Are you able to run the test? Maybe only I can do that. I don't know. Okay. Well, hey, it looks like somebody is over in foobar quicks here. Who is that? It's Jacob. Hey, Jacob, do you want to try to implement this to see if we can? Alex, we are splitting up into groups later. You can join now if you want. I just want to give everybody an idea of what Code With Me is like. It's fun. So let's see here. Someone who is over in the foobar quicks want to take a stab at implementing the compute method?
I guess I can try.
Yeah.
I
remember we're just trying to get the one test to run. So split in the right. Get rid of this.
Is this a plugin? It's not, because I don't have IntelliJ on this machine, so this is new.
Yeah, it's a plugin into IntelliJ, or it's let's see here. It downloads stuff automatically. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're saying you just want that one test to pass, so like literally in the compute, could you literally just return 1 and not code out the whole thing?
Yep.
So it's not really computing in essence. You're just kind of returning 1 to make sure that the function is there and returns the value.
Yep, that'll work.
Okay.
Yeah, looks like someone is, Who's that? Yeah, Nathan's doing that. Yeah. Nice. Okay, I'll run the, well, it looks like I want to run the test again, but stuff wasn't going to compile yet. Oh, it says waiting for host approval. Do I have more people to approve? Well, I think one will suffice right now. I wonder if we've reached some limit or something like that. I think we're going to have some code to compile. Oh, yeah. Good stuff. No problem. Let's just comment this out for the time being. And, oops.
I think Nathan asked, how do I convert a string to an integer? So you'd use integer dot parse int and then put the string in the parentheses, kind of like the same thing we did with double.
Nice. Well, anyway, I think everybody's getting a good idea of how to work with Code with Me, and so then you can use Code with Me to collaborate. You can also you can ping pong back and forth with Git, right? You can have the driver type in code, get stuff to pass, and then commit and push up to GitHub, and then have and then when you switch partners, you can have the next person. Sorry, I'm watching the code go by here. You have the next person go over to pull that code down into their own IntelliJ. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so then I'm going to go off of this. You guys, it'll be interesting to see what you come back with. Although I have to admit, someone's, yep, you're implementing it, but is it test driven? How do you know it really works? Okay, so which Code with Me is a lot of fun. So what we'll do is we'll do some pair programming, and then we'll reconvene as a class. So people who are remote will be in breakout rooms, and then we'll have a little in-class discussion of what you experienced. We might do a couple of rounds of that. We'll see how things look tonight, although I do have some other things that I want to cover. And that's the activity tonight. There is something that counts towards your grade, though. It's not the code that you write. I don't really care about the code that you write. I care about the experience that you have. And so then to assess your experiences in terms of what did you learn and did you get something out of it, I have what I've called a reflection quiz, which is ask you a couple of questions in Canvas. So you'll need to remember the name of the person that you mobbed with, or sorry, that you paired with. I'd like to provide a link to the public GitHub repository just so that we can see, hey, was any code delivered? I don't expect you to complete the Kata necessarily, but I want to show evidence that you didn't just sit there and talk about Star Trek or something like that the entire time. But most importantly, I want to hear about what your experiences were, what you saw, what you learned, what it is that you did, that you got out of tonight. And then also talk about your thoughts on where pairing or mobbing, we'll do two reflections, one for pairing, one for mobbing, where it would be effective and where it would be ineffective. So as you're doing the exercise tonight, be thinking about these things, right? So yes, participate, but also understand and get a feeling for what appealed to you and what didn't. And so once again, the pairing and the mobbing is for these in-class katas only. Don't do it on your homework. That's meant to be individual. That way, you don't need to worry about the appearance of plagiarism. Any questions about this pair programming activity we're about to embark on? Nope. Okay, and sorry, some people are probably waiting to get in, but we're done with this now. I'm going to end the session. Thanks to everybody who contributed. This is cool stuff. And now I'm going to create some breakout rooms. And let's see here. What have we got? We've got, how many people? We've got 31. So I'll create 15 breakout rooms. I will let you all choose the room you participate in. And let's go do it. So I'm going to open the rooms. So please go to a breakout room, find a partner, create that repository, and start working on the Kata.
David, you're muted.
Thank you. Boy, that was a hilarious joke, wasn't it, everybody? Yeah, no, it wasn't. No. That drives me crazy when you go into breakout rooms. For some reason, it mutes you. It's like, I'm the host. I should never be muted. Anyway. So we spent some time working in pairs. Hope everybody had a chance to make some progress and experience pair programming. What I'd like to do now is a little bit of a report out to just hear what people's experiences were like, how it might have been different from what you expected, maybe the same things as you expected. I'm curious to hear. And if folks here in the room would like to talk, how about you join the Zoom and put your audio on? I'll make sure that your audio doesn't go through the speakers and get lots of feedback. Let's start with some people who are remote, first of all. So I will, let's see here, do this. So please raise your hand and on Zoom and tell me a little bit about your experiences. Matt, thanks for being the first. Raise your hand.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It looks like you're speaking, but I can't hear you. I wonder if that's my fault.
Can you hear me now?
No, shoot. You can hear him, but I can't. Okay, why can't I hear him? Oh, I know. Maybe. God damn it. Huh, that's so interesting. Let me try it again. Oh, I know why.
How about now?
I can hear you now, but you're in my ear. I realized I turned off the AV in the room so that my screen wasn't shared. Can you say something again?
Hello?
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it was a lot of fun once we got going, and I found that a lot of assumptions I would have as I was thinking through the problem. The person I was working with, they would do something a different way, and I saw how that would quickly or lead to faster results when you're able to sort of avoid those assumptions that you might have working alone.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Anything that was challenging? Anything that you're like, this is more difficult than when I do it alone?
Troubleshooting technical issues was kind of tough, and especially the urge, like, I want to try something.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So yeah, getting over that hump was a bit tough, probably maybe more so. But then again, also working together on it might have made it a little better than if I was alone. So hard to say.
Nice. Yeah, it's always hard to, because unless you're doing the kata by yourself and then you do your kata with a pair, it's hard to know exactly an apples to apples comparison. But excellent. Good deal. Thank you for sharing that. Let's hear. Josh, thanks for raising your hand. What were your experiences like pair programming?
I think me and Kyle had a great experience pair programming, if I'm being honest. I did have a good takeaway because like the way he would do something is kind of different than the way I would kind of do something. So it kind of like, before we would do anything, we'd always kind of like talk our way through it. Like, hey, what are you thinking? What am I thinking? So one of the things, like, because we wanted to house like the food bar or whatever we had to put in there, like my initial idea was to put it all in a string, right? And keep appending it to that string. But he was like, why don't we just use a string builder instead? Because it's actually more optimized. And I would have never used that. So I thought it was a great idea. And so it's something that I can note down to look into string builders, because I've never used them before. So maybe next time I could use it if it's indeed more optimized.
Sweet. Great. Get to learn a new part of the API. Anything in particular they found challenging or surprising in a bad way?
I feel like not challenging with my partner, but challenging in terms of like doing it with test-driven development, because it's a very slow, tedious process. Like we had a whole discussion because we know for sure that when we input 2, it'll return 2. So we had done like all 14 out of the 15 tests, but we're like, wait, there's like 16 tests we should do. Should we do the last 2? And then we're like, yeah, we should, just for Uncle Bob or Dave or whatever his name was, just to make sure it actually works. But even though we knew it was going to work. So the slow, tedious process of test-driven development could be challenging if you don't have the patience.
Yeah. Cool. Great learning. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Any of you all here in the room would like to share your experiences? Okay. Well, do you want to join, and so we can get your mic, or yeah, would you? Okay. In the meantime, is there anybody else on Zoom who would like to speak? Jacob. Yeah, what are your experiences like?
I guess I had a general question about test-driven development.
Yeah.
And how I'm no longer using the debugger and step-by-step debugging while inside of test-driven development. It's kind of difficult to get used to.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's I, as you may recall, I said that when you do test-driven development, you don't use the debugger very much, because you write the test and you write just enough code to get the test writing, and unless you've broken something else, there's really no reason to debug. And so then you end up saving time there. Alex, I'll let you in right before you go speak. And so then yes, it's it's a different kind of experience, because you find the bugs by a failing test, as opposed to like you just happen to be running your program and like, oh, listen, but it doesn't work, right? It's you get much more rapid feedback. But yes, definitely takes some getting used to. Nice. Okay, I will change the room audio. I'll put it back in my ear. And let's see here. Alex, I'll let you in. Okay, and can you come off mute?
Can you hear me?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. Just actually finally working with people in person on code is the whole experience was different, and just hearing how Brian was thinking about it or how Ariel was thinking about it, and also just trying to put myself in the position of the driver and be like, what should I do next? What do you think is the next thing? And trying not too much to give my feedback, because I want to hear what they were having to say about it all.
Great. Yeah, those are awesome. Some awesome observations, both in terms of just like, hey, actually physically being in the room with people, and say more about the driver navigator, because no one else has mentioned that yet. So, what were your experiences like? You talked about what it was like being a driver. Maybe some of the others, as a navigator. What did that feel like?
For me personally, I got to do both. There's three of us here, so I got to be driver and navigator. And as driver, like I said, it was just more like trying not to step on their toes too much. But as navigator, it was more like whoever I was navigating with at the moment. I think it was mostly just Brian and I. At the end there, at the start, it was Ariel and Brian. Just speaking with him, like, hey, Ariel, how about we do this? Or while you're working on this part, Brian and I were talking about like, hey, what about this particular situation? And it was just pretty dynamic in that way that he and I were able to discuss issues while Ariel, or being Brian and I, were discussing issues. Ariel was finishing up a particular section of code that we had finalized for him to proceed with.
And then at the end, I think we all became navigators, honestly. When we got to the point where we were talking about the stars, switching the zeros to stars, I think that it turned into a real brainstorm session. We were all like kind of focused on this problem and weren't really sure exactly how to move forward. So we all kind of became, I guess I would say we all became navigators at that point. We got away from the keyboard and just tried to like think through it before we started coding.
Trying to figure out a way to approach the problem, that second part, without having to rewrite all of our code, because initially we had come to the realization that our code as it was written may address the problem conveniently enough, but as we got there and we started doing tests, we're like, oh, nope, and boiled down to the brainstorm session.
Nice. I saw you using the whiteboard and everything. Excellent. Good deal. Well, good. I'm glad you got to experience it in person. Great. Anyone else would like to contribute their observations this evening? Yeah. What was that? Yeah, whiteboard, yeah. Excellent. Okay, cool. Well, hey, thanks. There will be another opportunity next week to participate in pair programming. To be clear, though, only one pair programming session is required. But hey, if you're here or if you're interested, and want to try it with a different kata, maybe with different people or the same person, right? It's all good learning. And once again, let me share my screen. The way this activity is assessed is through a quiz on which you on Canvas on which you reflect about your experiences. So more conversations along the lines of what you talked about tonight. Nice. Okay. Let's talk about the third project. So, project 1 was setting up your fundamental classes, really just getting some experience building Java projects, working with IntelliJ and GitHub and all that kind of stuff. Project 2, much more interesting. You're reading and writing to files. Along the way, you're figuring out how to parse the command line and evolve your code. Project 3 is yet another evolution in this. In Project 3, you're going to be adding the ability to pretty print a phone bill. So to print your phone bill in a format that can be consumed by a person, by a human, as opposed to your text file format, which is meant to be read by a Java program. So this gives you the opportunity to work with some of Java's APIs for sorting data and for working with dates. And so then there's new functionality that you'll add. So for the first 2 projects, you could ignore the get begin time and get end time methods. These methods return a Java util date, but in this project, you'll be implementing them. And so now you will store your phone calls begin time and end time using a Java util date object to represent them, because that'll make it easier to format it and actually easier to parse it too. You still have you'll still have the get begin time string and get end time string methods, but now you should implement them to format the begin and end time date objects using date format.short. And so then if you're not familiar with what these APIs are, things like java.text.dateformat.short, please review the content in the core API lecture. So first thing you're going to do is represent your dates and times as a Java util date and not just a string. The second thing you're going to do is now we're going to implement some sorting in your phone bill. So all of the phone calls in a phone bill should be sorted chronologically by their begin time. So the first call that begins first is the first call in the phone bill. If 2 phone calls have the same begin time, then they should be sorted by their caller's phone numbers. And if you have 2 phone calls or multiple phone calls that begin at the same time by the same caller, those are considered equal. And again, this is all relates back to something called the comparable interface. Again, read up on that to figure out what it's all about. It allows you to provide what's called a natural ordering to Java objects so they know how to compare themselves against another object. So you'll be representing dates and times, Java util dates. You'll be implementing the comparable interface on your phone call class so that it knows how to sort itself in that order. And then you'll also be implementing a new type of phone bill dumper. Remember that your text dumper is a phone bill dumper. We're going to implement a class that provides that phone bill dumper interface called Pretty Printer. And what this does is it takes a phone bill object and formats it in a textual representation that can be consumed by a human. This is an opportunity for you to work with Java's APIs for formatting dates. And so I recommend they use the date format object to format things, to make them look nice. The Pretty Printer should also include, for each phone call, its duration in minutes. So all of this functionality is driven by a Project 3 main project, which has all the functionality of the previous projects, plus this new ability to pretty print a phone bill. So it takes all of the same arguments and it has a new option called Dash Pretty. Now, there are some important differences to note. I've changed the format of the date and time. So the date and time is now 3 arguments on the command line, and it's 12-hour time with an AM PM. So you'll need to evolve your command line parsing to handle that. I've also added a new option, Dash Pretty, that takes an argument, a file. And what this does is it'll pretty print a phone bill, either to a text file, or really a file in a text format. It's not binary. Or if the value of file here is just a dash, it'll print it to standard out. So here again, if it's Dash Pretty and they give you a file, it'll write a pretty format of the phone bill to the file. And if it's Dash Pretty Dash, it'll write the pretty version of the phone bill to standard out. Sorry, Jacob, question that's month, day, year. Yes. Was I not clear on that here? Or? Oh, and that's still the case. So either, thank you. It doesn't have to be. So 1/3/2022 is also a valid date. Good question. But you've got the same options that you had before. You can read and write from a text file. You can print the newly added phone call, and of course you have your Dash README. Oh, and note that the pretty printing should happen after the new phone call has been added, meaning that the output of the pretty output should include the phone call that was on the command line. Error handling, pretty much the same stuff as it was before. If the command line's wrong, the format of the day or time is wrong, or here's a new requirement: if the phone call's end time is before its begin time, that's an error. And don't worry about time zones or anything like that. It's just that. So some new functionality to implement and some new things to test for. Yes, question. Yep. Gotcha. Okay. Right. So anyway, this requirement that says that the begin time must be before the end time, and by time I mean date and time. So right, you're like, hey, what if the call begins at 11:59, but then it's like a 24-hour call, or yeah. So take both the date and the time into account. That's what I mean. Yeah. Yep. And no, there's no time traveling feature where we're like, well, what if it's Doctor Strange, and what if it's on Earth 617? And anyway, yeah, cool. Okay. Any other questions about this? 2 weeks from tonight, but things are piling up, right? Let's take a look at the schedule here, and actually, if you look at Canvas, should see on the calendar that a couple of weeks, July 20th, Project 3 is due, and so is the cones, and you've got Project 2 in the meantime. So make sure you're making progress on the cones, and make sure that you're focused on getting Project 2, because Project 3 is also in the mix. Another question. Eye of the beholder. So things like I want to see. So the question is, what does it look to be pretty, right? So some things that I'll look for in the pretty printer. I want to see evidence that you're using date format to make the dates look nice. So not just what you entered on the command line, but format it using a date formatter. In general, it should be aesthetic. So I don't know, no weird spacing or just everything all jumbled together. And then also make sure that the duration of each call is there. And of course, information about the caller and the callee phone number and the customer name, stuff like that. Yeah, another question?
Yeah. So for the projects that it's Project 2 and 3, should it have its own folder, project folders separate from Project 1? Or should we just continue developing where we left off?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to continue developing when you're left off. You when you submit, I now have a git tag that's there, and so then if you need to go back to like fix something in project 1 or whatever, you can either branch from that tag, or you can just figure out how to make it work in your current code base. So yeah,
I mean,
the intention.
we could make a different branch basically for each project.
Yep, you could do that proactively. Right now it's just a tag from when you submitted, but yeah, you could proactively create a branch if that's something that you're comfortable doing. Otherwise, I mean, you could copy it to a different directory. Whatever works for you.
Okay.
Actually, no, you can't copy to a different directory. The submit script might break if you do that. So let me know if someone encounters some challenges in there, and I'll work through it with you. Sorry, and then you had a question, Ariel. Oh, that was project 2. Can we, well, before we go to the project 2, can we do the project? Is that a project 3 question that you've got? Let's do project 3 stuff, and we'll go back to project 2. Yeah. Okay, so then the question is, how do you sort by phone numbers? That's also part of the assignment, is to figure out how to sort strings. Yep. Oh, like, numerically, and then, I mean, they'll all be valid phone numbers because you've verified that. And so then, yeah, just like alphanumerically. Yep. Good question. Yep. Any other project 3 questions? Nope. Okay, and you had a project 2 question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything?
Yep. So for project 2, the question is, for project 2, is there an expected format for the text file? Not even pretty. It can't be binary, and basically the information. So looking at the text file, the grader needs to see evidence that that the phone call was added to the phone bill. So you can use any format you want. You can do your own. Hey, if you want to write XML or JSON, or you can give it a try, right? I can't add any libraries to do that, so it'd be kind of like low level and stuff. But right, other than that, it can't be binary. I've had students before where like, aha, I'm going to encode a serialized object. No, because you can't tell, right? It's a bunch of ones and zeros. But no, otherwise it's just got to be, we will look at the file before and after you run the program to make sure there's evidence and stuff like that. Yep. Nope, I do not. Cool. Comma separated values is a way to do it. Very popular. Okay. Nice. Okay, so projects. Well, it's 9 o'clock. And I haven't shown people how to make the Maven site, and I'm tired. So we can do that another time, and if someone's really hot to do it, I can make a one-off video. Maybe let's do that, make a one-off video or something. Because again, it's not something that's super important to the course. Excellent then. So before anything else? I always do that. It's like, well, before you can all leave and do something else, who wants to keep everybody here for another 3 minutes? Listen to it, right? Yeah, no, right? Yeah. And I'm sure there's somebody who wants to, but they won't. No. But anyway, so that's all we got for tonight. Thanks for participating again in the pair programming. I hope we got some more of it. You'll have a chance to do it next week. We will we'll get together again. Just a quick note on next week. We'll be introducing Project 4. I really encourage you to attend live, at least for that part. Even if you're not doing the pair programming, you're going to want to see the introduction to Project 4 because it is different, and you'll want the ability to follow along at home and ask questions. So, I know there's a lot of stuff going on both in class and outside of class, but I'll encourage you to do that. Okay then. Awesome. Have a great evening, everybody. Have a great week. I'll chat with you on Slack, and I'll see you again next week. Bye now.